frustrated for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina Show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome everybody into the Off Tackle with John Fina Show, brought to you by the Market Dominator team on the Buffalo Rumblings vidcast network, presented by Picasso's Pizza. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's. We are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local and nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. I'm the host of this here wonderful show, the Off Tackle with John Fina Show. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter, Joe Miller Wired. Sitting next to me right over there is the star of this show, the inevitable Mr. John Fina himself, who you can find, as you can see, at John Fina. And he's a wonderful... And there it is, the crack of the beer. John, how are you today? How is it?
It's better than the alternative crack, right?
Yikes. Anyways, moving on from that one. How are you feeling? Are you back? Are you rested? You got to sleep in your own bed last night? I got home today at about 4:30. I literally, first thing I did was watch the football game, took a nap at halftime, watched the second half, ate some dinner. Here we are. How was your day? Did you work today?
I did work today all day. Yeah, it was a whirlwind, though. You know, I always plan these trips. Like my last trip to Buffalo, I just overbooked myself. I go from place to place. I just can't get enough, right? So I always think, I'm going to have downtime here, and there's no downtime. And of course, I'm all the better for it. You know, idle hands are the devil's playground.
Idle hands. Playground. Speaking of the Devil's Playground, you and I were in Kansas City this weekend for this wonderfully awesome football game. It was one of the best Bills game experiences I've had. It was
away or in toto?
In general, just in general. Like the group was good. The personalities that were there that were good. I mean, obviously we went as a group of 10, right? So my 4, me, my wife, my 2 girls.
Yeah.
I'm going to miss somebody. But and then from there, Jerry O, you, John Spazchek, Joe Marino, Alyssa, and Kristen Kimmick. I didn't miss anybody.
And
who?
The Warlock.
Oh yeah. Well, Warlock, he was, yes. LaShawn came and joined us as well. I meant the group, the group chat that we kind of had as far as that goes. It was, LaShawn doesn't miss. So LaShawn goes to every game. Kenny was there. So Pinto Ron was like 2 cars.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Bills backers were next to us. The Springfield 417 Bills backers were next to us. And after a little while, it ended up being that I don't know where everybody came from. There was just a ton of people. Jerry O at one point, he's like, I feel like I'm in one of the exhibits at the zoo. He's like, people are just looking at me going, that's Jerry. Like,
yeah.
but you're not willing to talk to me. So
he's like, dude, at least I'm incognito. They recognize you, but they don't recognize me. And I'm like, I'm gonna fix that.
Some of the best.
I'm gonna fix that.
I tweeted him out. Like I'm standing there and I was talking to somebody. I was standing over the food table and Jerry's cooking behind me, and I hear a guy go, "You're a big old boy. Did you ever play football?" Like, I did play football. He goes, "Oh yeah, where at?" He goes, "I played at Tulsa and I played for the Bills for 10 years."
And people were like coming up to me and like, do you think Jerry O will take a picture with me? I'm like, I turned it into a cottage industry. I was like, $5, I think I can convince him.
Yeah, that's funny.
A line in my pocket, selling out Jerry O. What's up? Yeah, it was great to see Jerry. You know, we got along smashingly well as teammates, and now that we're both in our 50s, we're kind of salty a little bit, maybe a little crusty around the edges. So he and I watching the game together in a suite with just all Kansas City people, 40-yard line, 50 rows up, just the best place you could watch a game. Catering and booze, and they had queso, which was awesome.
You're hysterical.
It was so funny because, we got to play it cool when you're in enemy territory, even though between Jerry O and I, we could have thrown a few people down to the sideline.
It was fun. Joe Marino was a lot of fun. So he was, and then when LaShawn, it was funny because we're all there, right? So there's a decent group of people there. Kenny, like I said, is there. And then LaShawn shows up, Warlock shows up, and it's like, oh, the most popular person in Bill's Mafia is here right now. Everybody's like, oh, Warlock's here. Yeah.
I'll play second fiddle to him. I'm good.
For sure.
LaShawn's awesome. So
yeah, such a good dude and such a generous and giving heart. But it was a wonderful weekend, and we can talk more about that, obviously, as we kind of talk about the game and what kind of when we get into our topics. But ladies and gentlemen, you are tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator team on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. It's so good to have you. We are Super Chat Live. Please like and subscribe, whatever platform you're on. But real quick, let's take just a moment and hear from our show's title sponsor, who I believe is in the comment section right now. The man, the myth, the legend, John Spascheck himself, who was at the Kansas City game with us.
Yes, he was.
Red 19, blue 21, said huh? Oh, hey guys, I'm not Josh. I'm John Spascheck, the Market Dominator, the proud sponsor of the John Fina Show, hosted by the voice, Joe Miller.
That's me.
And folks, the great thing about why we love our quarterback, not only is he awesome, but here's the reasons why. He's super disciplined, he's an incredible hard worker, he actually is very intelligent, and he has a ton of focus. These are some of the qualities that my good man John Fina used on the field to help the Bills get to Super Bowls so many years ago. But now, in real estate, I'm the guy who helps you win. This is what we do. We educate, we advocate, we negotiate, and we dominate. So if you want to win in this market, you call me 716-570-3298. Go! Let's go, Buffalo!
Let's go, Buffalo. That is John Spascheck. Do us a favor if you're in the market to buy or sell a home anywhere, apparently in America, but especially in Western Europe, please give John a call. You can find him at 716-570-3298.
Yeah, he was great. I had a great time. I met him once before or twice before, but kind of limited engagement. We were doing a podcast from O'Neill's, but I got to spend some time with him this weekend, and what a great guy. And, he is the dominator. He's not afraid. He dives in. I got to tell you, if I buy that house, he's my guy because he's tenacious, but in a good way. I had a blast with the guy. We killed it at Walmart to all 5 or 6 of us. That trip was hilarious.
I'm upset that I missed that, but you guys had a lot of fun on Saturday while we were trying to get to Kansas City. But it was just an incredible time. My wife had a great time. My kids had a great time. The Bills won. Obviously, which is great. So it's Victory Tuesday. This is a special Victory Tuesday edition of the Off Tackle with John Fina show. So with that, let's get this thing started, and let's start at the beginning, which are thoughts of the game. So what were you? And you can start anywhere you want. You can start at the pregame. You can start right. Or you can start, in the parking lot. You can start on Saturday. However you want to go. Just overall arching thoughts.
Well, first of all, I got to say an enormous thank you to John and the Kansas City Bills backers. They were awesome. Yeah. And the downtown at Taps that they set up, the bar, was incredible. You'd have thought you were in downtown Buffalo. The food was good. The entertainment was incredible. And just the number of Bills fans walking around was awesome. And then, of course, Josh Allen's father and his mother and a buddy, they got up and amped up the crowd and sang Sweet Caroline. It was awesome. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. It was awesome. He's got some pipes. So it was great.
I saw a repost of it. So
yeah, it was pretty damn good.
Yeah,
it was pretty damn solid. And then after the Bills backers clubs that, so many of them were represented. I mentioned John in Kansas City, but there were a number of them there, including the Arkansas Bills backers, and I got their sticker too, so I'm digging it. Awesome. And I have to say, the Kansas City fans that I engaged with were nothing but congenial and kind and no BS or anything like that before, during, or after the game. It was great. All around. And of course, freaking game was like.
Yeah. Can I stop you before you get to the game? Let me stop you before you get to the game.
Well, I had to have an AED for Jerry-O. He was going down on me. Charge! Clear! Boom, boom. Jerry-O, stay with us! Don't go to the light, Jerry! Jerry-O, what am I going to tell Jamie and the kids? No!
I have no idea what you're talking about. Why was Jerry-O dying?
Dude, weren't you dying during that game? I mean, every time you turned around, you're like heart palpitations.
I was nervous at times, but I felt like the game was in control. I don't want to talk about that yet. I want to talk about the crowd because you have played on that football field, right? How many times did you play in that stadium?
Twice.
Now, in the suite that you were in, were the windows open or were they closed?
We had a doorway, and it was always open. We went outside a little bit, but I was like, oh, God, it's too loud. Too many bad memories of being at away games. I was starting to get a little, a twitch and a trigger. I was like, I'm starting to freak out. And I think that's what happened was the environment of the game just like penetrated me, and I was just like I couldn't do anything, so I started getting amped up like I was playing again. I couldn't sleep the night before. Same as always in these damn hotels the night before a game. I'm having not a panic attack, but I keep thinking like I got to go out on the field. No, I don't. I'm just sitting here drinking beer.
So I was going to ask you what how the crowd, because that was the fourth time I've been in the stadium, and I'm now willing to admit I was 0-3 in that stadium watching the Bills play there. But that crowd their crowd is awesome. They're just a great crowd. I've said this story to a lot of people many, many times as far as just, when you think about football IQ and it goes, and it's funny because we hear that and we understand that if you're old enough and older than, not, or younger than me, but not crazy young. So Takeo,
you're not going to burst into a John Denver
Negative.
Older than the mountains.
Sunshine on my shoulder. Anyway, Takeo Spike said one of the reasons that he signed here was because he understood that Bills fans are smart. Like from playing here and being in the stadium, he realized that Bills fans were smart. So all that to say this, we have a high football IQ in this town. We've talked about when to get loud. So Bills fans are very good about when the players are in the huddle, they're starting to get loud. They break the huddle, they come to the line, they get real loud. As soon as the ball snapped, then the volume comes down. And then, it rinse and repeat all the way through. And then third down, it's nuts, right? It's absolutely insane. Rinse and repeat. In Kansas City, I don't know if you caught it, but literally the Bills take the field for the first time as the players are running out on the field. Like the crowd's just loud, and they're loud until the Bills don't have the ball anymore. And
it's very aggravating.
The booing moment when that push off that Travis Kelce got called for, which was a push off. It might have been ticky tack, but he literally extended his arm high, got separation. It was a push off. It was a penalty. The booing that ensued and the unison at which that crowd does things, like they just do unison cheers and chants so well. It's borderline soccer-esque at times.
They must get a script when they're walking into the game. Okay, in the first quarter, we'll be using the boot cheer, followed by the tomahawk chop. Then next up is going to be they're pretty fantastic. Not to the disparagement of the Bills Mafia crowd, because you guys are also awesome.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, now continue, if you will, with the game portion. I apologize. I just want to talk about the crowd just for a minute.
I still got a little locked up and, kind of, a little overwhelmed by what we were talking about. I kind of lost my place. I'm
and then the game. I stopped.
Yeah, so Jerry-O and I are sitting there like with our freaking giant noses against the glass, right? Sitting in the fishbowl. And, there were times when the Kansas City people, and they were wonderful, and it was a great old friend of mine who afforded us the opportunity to sit with them, and can't thank them enough. And they come by and they were trying to be really nice about it, and kind of just those are like the nice way of giving somebody a dig. But I like you felt like the game was, there weren't panic moments, but when you're a player, you're so amped up that there aren't panic moments, but there are, you're just like this elevated testosterone level, elevated, what's that other thing they give you?
Serotonin or adrenaline,
right? Yeah. So you're like on this adrenaline feed, And the fans get this way too. I'm not trying to take anything away from the experience of being there but never having played. And it's exhausting in a way, but it's also like simultaneously invigorating, like you draw on it. And there are moments when you're having success and the crowd is still loud, where you're walking up to the line of scrimmage, you're like, you're loud, but we're kicking your ass.
That would have been last year's regular season game. The game, to me, I mean, there was nervous moments. McKenna, at one point, I looked over at her and she was like shivering, and I was like, "Are you cold?" And we were in the shade, which wasn't great. So the visitor side was in the sun for most of the game, and we were much like at the Bills Stadium. It's 60 degrees. The wind's blowing it on the back of my neck. And because we're in the shade, it was a little bit chilly, whereas everybody else was warm and toasty. But I looked at her at one point because McKenna was sitting next to me, and I was like, "Are you cold?" Like, she's shivering. She's like, "I'm nervous." And I was like, okay.
That's good training. You got yourself a real Bills fan there. Now she's like, it's like a disease.
A little bit.
With no cure. You're going to have it for the rest of your life, McKenna.
Yeah, a little bit. The way that it opened, obviously, it laid out and played out exactly how we thought. No score in the first quarter, 10-10 at the half. So whoever had zeros for the squares came out, did really, really well for first quarter and halftime. But the game, the whole entire experience was great. To walk out of that building with the W. I know it's funny because it's coming up on Twitter a lot today that this game doesn't matter, just like last year's regular season game didn't matter. It only matters what happens in the playoffs. And as much as that is true, it was still relieving to come out of that stadium again with a win. And it wasn't, how do I say that? It wasn't even the blowout fashion is different, right? When blowouts happen, you're a player, you can speak to this. Normally, we got exploited by something. They found something to get us, and we couldn't overcome. And then the game turns, and by the second half, it's just a different game. We're trying to play catch up. When it's a close, tight game like that, like you're going at it. It's a slugfest, and that's it. It felt a little bit like that to me.
You have two of the top 6 teams in the entire league, right? Mm-hmm. You're going into a hostile stadium with great coaching and great players. Blowouts don't really happen that often in those situations. And look, like Mahomes or not, he's kind of got a little bit of a horseshoe up his, I mean, the guy can pull it out. He's impressive to watch. He's fun to watch. Not as good as our guy, but I got to say, like, I live for blowouts because I can't take the stress.
Right.
But everybody knew going in there it was going to be a hard-fought game, and it delivered everything, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you had glorious plays from both teams. So, I mean, it was a feast for the eyes and the experience,
including run game, ground, through the air, tackles, defensively, sacks. Like, it was great.
It had everything. It really did. I'll say, I don't think, I mean, aside from the 2 interceptions the Bills had, I mean, the secondary play on both sides of the ball was not remarkable. But, it was a lot of bend by both teams. Bend, don't break. And we just have a guy who put the ball on 3 receivers in a way that is, I mean, we're talking Van Gogh, we're talking Da Vinci, we're like the precision and the beauty of a couple of those throws. Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter that said, "Oh, Josh can only throw to wide open guys." I'm like, bro, I don't know what game you're watching.
The touchdown pass at the end, the throw to Dawson Knox was not a wide open throw. He threw Dawson Knox open in that play.
Threw him, and the throw to Gabe Davis.
Yeah,
that touchdown.
The touchdown, that one happened actually right below me.
Yep.
It's funny because on the broadcast, I just watched the game back, and Romo was talking about how when they get Willie Gay back and when they get a couple other players back, and it's like, I don't know that matters. I don't know that the Bills getting Tre'Davious White back, if Micah Hyde plays, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. These guys are going to make plays.
That's right. And so I think what's interesting about what you just said, and I'm going to transition to a new idea because it is my show. We know we have QB God 1 on our team, right? Mm-hmm. Like the deliver us from all evil. We finally got the kind of guy.
Right.
But he's never going to be 30 of 30 with 413 yards and 6 touchdowns. It's just never going to happen. He is still human, and he will still have an errant throw from time to time.
Yes.
But when it matters, when it's clutch, you got to hope to make 80% of those. Yeah, like, oh, you want 100% of those clutch moments. And I'm like, you know what? It's just too much to ask. You can't get 100.
The ascension of the curve, the arc, the curve, ascension, whatever you want to say, the continued reach for his ceiling, which I'm not sure if we still have seen his ceiling yet, has been so remarkable that you flew out yesterday from Kansas City. Joe Marino, myself, my family, Kristen Kimmick stuck around until today, Tuesday, and Marino and I were watching the Monday Night Football game, the Chargers versus Broncos game in the lobby downstairs. I just texted him, like, hey Joe, my family's going to bed. Do you want to watch the game downstairs with me? And he's like, that'd be awesome. So we watched the game downstairs, and it's interesting because the point that I made was when
jealous.
Hashtag jealous. Yeah, you could have stayed. What's interesting about just that is having a conversation with Marino about Herbert and Allen. When Herbert came out year 1, year 2, there was this feeling that Herbert is going to be, or kind of is like a mini Josh. Like he's got that arm talent. He's big. He's a thick dude, and he's ballsy and a gunslinger and will throw the ball into windows. And Josh has just opened the gap. Like, if you're into NASCAR and you watch the guy that's in the lead just open that gap between him and everybody else, that's what Josh has done. They don't even look like a similar player anymore. Herbert looks good. Allen just looks like he's on a different level.
Yeah. To be fair, I'll say that Josh is a feeder. He loved it. I talked to his father at the bar, and you just know the guy's a feeder. He feeds off of everybody on that team. He is pulling energy from everybody, and I don't think it's a burden, but he is carrying the weight, like, give me more, build on me. And it seems, I'm not in the locker room, but it seems that it's sequential. Like everybody's doing it. They all want a piece and they all want to give, and it's a special place to be when you have a locker room like that. I mean, look at Deion Dawkins and is it Mackenzie doing the locker room karaoke, or is it Mackenzie? Or I mean that just doesn't happen with guys that aren't happy being together.
Yeah. And
that's the kind of thing that's going to get you through those dark moments in a game. And I'm not going to say every game, but probably 75% of the games that you play, there's doubt creeps, man.
Yeah.
And if you have a will of all the guys, that's how you overcome it. It's when doubt starts creeping in. It's when fear starts creeping in and things start to fall off, like scales of a fish start falling off, or whatever analogy you want to use, and the armor's down, the protection's down, and then the finger pointing starts happening.
Right.
And you just don't see that with this team. You don't. Even and with the losses, right? Like there was no outcry of anger against the defense from last year. I think among the players, they keep it tight and they keep it respectful, and I think they regard each other as great professionals, and that makes a difference on the field. When I look at the guy next to me and say, man, I need to be more like that son of a bitch.
Right.
Right. And if you got 10 other guys on your offense that you want to be more like, and they're pointing the finger at you saying, I want to be more like you, you got a good thing going. We have a good thing going.
There's a lot about this team, whether it's the culture or even the depth. When Spencer Brown went out injured, the Chiefs fan that was sitting next to me was like, well, that's going to be good for us. And I was like, actually, David Quessenberry, who was the starting right tackle for the Titans last year, is our backup. I was like, shit.
Yeah. And by my measure, David had one poor play.
Yeah.
But look, it's one thing to be standing on the sideline and hear that crowd noise, and it's another thing to get your ass hauled into action at a moment's notice. All of a sudden, the noise is in your head, and that makes a difference. I mean, you just can't explain when it's 3rd and long and you're in your 2-point stance and you're trying to look at the ball out of one eyeball and look at the ginormous, menacing, frightening defensive end who's literally salivating at 3rd and long at home with 300 decibel levels, knowing full well that he's going to get a quarter of a step or a half a step on you, especially now that we do this signaling thing and there's no more count. I mean, that, like, to me, like, that brings back some heart palpitations. That is, holy cow. I mean, that's a hard deal. I explained it, but the lived experience of being at an away stadium that's loud on 3rd and 10 in a close game is about as shitty as it gets.
Let's transition into the good. So with that, why don't we hear from John in regards to our one of our other sponsors, House Capital. Do you have a read? Are you ready to read for me?
Oh, I am ready. I am ready.
Drum roll, please.
When you're looking for to buy a house, everybody's got a guy. That's not working. Hey, you might need some work done on your roof. Your buddy's got a guy. Need an inspection? Well, hell, I know somebody. Doesn't everybody? And when you're looking to get your financing together, there is no other guy than Brian Belser from House Capital. They help make the mortgage process simple, hassle-free, and understandable. At House Capital, their preferred relationships with some of the top lenders gives you the edge up in getting the financing that you need. Take it to the house with House Capital. Brian Belser, House Capital. I tell you, it's another one of those things between buying a house, financing a house. You just want people to take the stress, take the process away from you,
yes,
and don't bring the problems to you, you know?
Yeah, when we talk about, so rolling into the good, right? So the things in this game that were good. First of all, I need to let the audience who is live with us on the chat and loves the position breakdowns and the offensive line breakdowns. We are having some issues with copyright infringement as it pertains to NFL film. So we're trying to work through a way. We keep getting flagged, and for lack of a better term, go ahead.
You know what we should do is just tell, like I give the plays and then have the people who are listening at home or watching at home cue it up on their DVR, because everybody in this chat right here is like, don't delete, never delete in 2095, right? When I've been dead for 10 years.
So we're trying to work it out. We're working with Buffalo Rumblings, SB Nation, to figure out a way for us to continue using footage. It might go back to me hand recording with my phone over my computer, which isn't great. The quality's not great, but we're trying to work through it. So there won't be any film breakdown this week. And we got 2 weeks to figure that out. But good-wise, I want to start with this. Good-wise, I want to ask you a question. We've talked already a lot about Josh Allen, and you called him QB1 God. What do you want to have? Are you okay with it?
You're having an audio issue. It's coming across like, I don't know what, Ukrainian.
Every week this happens where you...
That's better. There you go.
Every week this is exactly what happens. And then the people in the comment section are like, your audio's fine, Joe. I think it's your internet connection. I think you get more...
Internet? What's the internet?
Yeah, exactly, Al Gore. I think you get jitter or something or whatever. Anyways, regardless. So you've already talked about Josh Allen. We've talked a little bit about that. And what I want to know from you as a player, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are similar in ways, but they're different as well. Josh Allen has a rifle of an arm. He's not as much of a touch thrower. He can do the off-platform, alternate angle, move the pocket stuff, but he's far more of an aggressive runner than Pat Mahomes is. He's obviously bigger than Pat Mahomes. Mahomes is very much a touch guy. He's a creator, right? He's a creator in the pocket, where Josh Allen is probably, I think what has helped Josh Allen propel his game is structure, learning to play from structure, which Pat can do, but he's also a creator. When you see these two, just from a good standpoint, similarities, differences, like what is the big things that stick out to you?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is the buy-in aspect of it, right? I mean, they're both enormously skilled and they're incredibly resourceful when things go bad. And whether, one guy scrambles aggressively or the other one, does a little bit more creation waiting for his guys to get open, who's, I would argue that Mahomes is a little slipperier,
yeah,
more slippery than Josh. But Josh will, rather than try to be slippery, he'll just try to run you over which I don't want to happen to me. So it's the buy-in with these two guys, which was similar to when we had Flutie, right? The play is never over.
Right.
He's not going to start heading to the sideline with 15 yards to go and just run out of bounds. He's still thinking, still looking.
Right.
So I think it's the buy-in, it's the play is never over kind of thing, and that's really translational across the front five as well as the other five.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is looking to make something from nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's an inspirational quality, right? And everybody knows on both of those teams, like, you know, I don't want to be caught on film thinking the play is over when it's not.
That happened to Von Miller this weekend. He made a tackle. He tackled Pat Mahomes at the one, like on a 1 or 2 yard gain that he kind of gave up on and was like, "Oh, he's still running around," and had to chase him down.
I saw that. But hey, going to the good, right? We talked about Josh.
Yeah.
And those guys, there's similarities. I mean, we could go all day long and talk about where they differ, where they're similar, and how great they are. I mean, it's undeniable. But what I would say, you know, for us, bringing it back home to our people here, is you cannot imagine just the amount of respect I have for Matt Milano. He made plays. He made about 3 plays in that game that were just stunning.
Mm-hmm.
That were game-changing plays that kept the Bills in the game. He was outflanked by Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I thought for sure, and he accelerated and he made that tackle for a no gain or 1 yard gain. It was astounding. He was outflanked. Edwards-Helaire had position on him, and you know, it's hard to look past that guy as like, wow, how is he not getting more attention? I mean, just a terrific player. I think our wide receivers overall were quite good. We had, I think, 1 or 2 drops that were kind of head scratchers. Even Diggs went alligator arms on us on one, I think.
Right.
That was Jerry O. I didn't say that, Stefon. It was Jerry O. He was sitting right next to me.
Don't point at me. Point in the other direction.
Jerry's not here. The other thing I have to say is the offensive line played pretty freaking well. I mean, Devin Singletary's numbers were great. Yeah. I mean, they were great. He didn't eclipse 100 yards, but if you add his receiving yardage to his running yardage, I think he was about 130, somewhere around there.
Actually, don't know.
It was pretty damn good. I was pleased with what I saw. I mean, it's hard to like look at this and say, well, you know, could have done better here because, yeah, I saw a lot of talk like, well, why can't we cover Kelsey? And I'm like, hey, you know what? There's like 30 other teams that have a hard time with that too. You know, this is what they do.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit like you gotta just be in for the pain.
Right.
Because there's no getting out without pain. There isn't.
So he had 107, I believe, is the yards that he had, all-purpose yards, which is still great.
Yes, I think 70 plus running the ball, and another. I think he had 4 receptions for 40 or 38.
So for me, there was a lot of good in this game. The pressures that got home, Von Miller was above and beyond amazingly wild good. Everything that
I was going to get to Von. You stole my thunder, but take it. Take the thunder.
The reason you pay him the ungodly contract that even I had a negative reaction to when I filmed myself live watching it on NFL Network when they announced it. That's why you pay him the money, to get home twice, to cause him to get off of his spot on the last. And what's awesome about what you said about Milano is Von goes inside on the last play. Mahomes goes to his right, and he has to double clutch because Milano's right there. Like Milano's there, and then Taron Johnson comes off of his guy. He reads it and reacts and is like, oh, I know right where this ball's going. And then he comes up. So those 3 guys made that play, which was awesome. So just the defense and how they were working as a cohesion to me was very good. Travis Kelce, I don't know what you do about that guy, to your point. Like I'm sitting in the stands and I'm in the first row of the upper deck on about the 18-yard line. And I hear the crowd around me as I'm watching the play develop when the Chiefs are on the field. I'm listening to the fans around me, the Chiefs fan yelling, Kelsey's wide open. And then my eyes glance, and sure enough, Kelsey's like standing on the field somewhere all by himself, and Mahomes just missed him, which is a fun conversation about when they talk about quarterbacks missing. How do they miss that wide open guy? How did they not see that? Well, Travis several times was wide open on the field, as was Diggs. The very first drive the Bills had, Stefon Diggs was down in the end zone by himself, like screaming for the football. Sometimes they just can't see it. But anyways,
you only have so much progression you can go through.
Exactly.
Right. And if Travis Kelce is number one in every progression, he's going to be covered in every progression.
Right.
Right. So there are times when, in my opinion, if your progression is going 1, 2, 3 on the right, this guy's on the left is out of it.
Yeah.
And then it's when the play gets extended and your eyes go to that guy and you're like, oh, he's wide open. But that's, like you go from 1, 2, 3, survival mode, freak out mode, running for my life mode. And, of course, easy to go, oh, that guy's open. What the hell? Throw it to that guy.
Throw it to that guy. How'd you miss that guy?
Yeah, how'd you miss him? Except for like the 6'5" thundering 9 guys in front of you, terrorizing you, looking to break your ribs and concuss your brain.
Well, that was a slight to the people a couple of years ago that used to comment on Josh Allen missing a guy. Like, how did he not see X player wide open? You just don't. And all the great ones miss wide open guys. It just happens. So the pass rush I thought was fantastic. That was exactly what you signed up for, and why you signed Daquan Jones, why you signed Tim Settle, why you bring back Jordan Phillips, why you bring back Shaq Lawson. All of these guys made plays. And Von Miller, obviously. Matt Milano had himself a game. Tremaine Edmonds had himself a game. The defensive backfield was good. The defense, I mean, they held that team to 20 points, which
they did.
The number one scoring offense in the league. They played very well. They held them down. And obviously, we didn't score as many points either, but it is what it is. I thought Devin Singletary, to your point, had a great game. He had some really great rushes. And then for me, the big thing was the one thing that we could not do 2 years ago, which was run the clock out. So when we got the ball back at 5 minutes, we did it against the Ravens, and we've done it now against the Chiefs. You get the ball back at 5:26 or 5:23, whatever it was, and it was before where we just didn't have whatever the game script was to drag that clock out to get it down to almost nothing. They did it against the Ravens. They did it in this game. They gave the Chiefs back with 1:03 left. And then on Diggs looks at Von Miller as the defense is taking the field, and he says, "Finish it."
Yeah, well, I'll put this on that, and I agree with your assessment. I want more of our front four to get free. I don't want it to just be Von, I gotta see more from Groot and Epinesa. They got to get there. They got to get home. I was in particular a play with AJ where, and this is an offensive lineman's dream. Okay. And I would tell him, if he was on this podcast right now, I'd tell him to his face, if you're committed to the upfield shoulder on a rush, you got to finish the move. And Vaughn does this. So he's like, I'm sold on this move. I'm bought in, and I'm going to finish. And I saw on 2 occasions where Epinesa, he feels like I'm not going to get there, and he pumps the brakes, and then it's just an offensive lineman's dream. You can see my hands, right, Joe?
Right, yeah.
And I'm just going to grab, and I'm going to squeeze, and I'm going to pull you in like that, and you're done. But the reason that it's important, especially against a guy like Pat Mahomes, is you keep pressing that. If that's your move, if you chose the upfield shoulder, finish the move. Because at the end of it, if the ball doesn't come out on time, the tackle is not in a great position to deal with you with a mobile quarterback kind of sliding around in the pocket. And you can get home in those instances. But I promise you, as a defensive end, if you don't have a plan and you don't execute the plan, you're not going to get home.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents for
my last
worth.
Good was, it was good to see Dawson Knox get a touchdown and actually have some receptions. I said to Sterling Furrow, who did the overreaction show for me on Sunday night, which was awesome. Thank you again, Sterling Furrow, for that.
Thank you, Sterling.
Which allowed me to actually get through a game and not have to take notes. I didn't chart plays, which was, I looked at McKenna and I was like, it's really amazing to sit here and watch a Bills game and not chart plays.
You do that too?
I do that too. So yeah, it's just one of those things because I got to have it for the show, right? So as much as I was excited to see him score that touchdown, I've wildly been wondering where the heck he has been this year. And I know that he's going through a lot. And this isn't necessarily me a slight on Dawson. It's just more of I don't know if they're scheming him different. I guess believe that they're trying to keep him in to block. Maybe he's coming in for protections. I know you're probably going to talk about him a little bit on the needs work, which we'll segue to right now. But it was great, as people in the comment section have already said, it was great to see him get a touchdown and the game-winning touchdown at that. And it was, just with everything that's going on in his life and his family's life, it was just great to see him contribute. Yeah.
Well, I know it's kind of late in the game, but yeah, look, I will agree with you in part. I think it's other than Stefon Diggs, the distribution of the ball, is a jump ball every week, right? We want Diggs to get 8 catches a game minimum. That usually means the Bills win. And then the distribution usually goes between 4 and 6 to 2 guys, and then 3 and 4 to the next 2 guys. And I'm okay with that. And I think it's cyclical.
Yeah.
I mean, Stefon's your number one guy, and that's just the way it's going to look. And yeah, I guess like you set me up to not take a shot at Dawson, even though I sent you pictures. And I don't know, what's up? Can I not do it now?
I mean, you can do it with pictures. I mean, I didn't.
No, I'm saying he is going through a lot, right? I mean, losing a family member is pretty rough, but if anybody wants to go back, I'll cue you up right now. First play of the fourth quarter.
I can possibly pull them up.
Third and 1. Don't bother.
Let's do this.
Don't bother.
No, because the play that you want to talk about, I watched again. It popped I watched it today. But do me a favor and do the Q42 read real quick, and I'll see if I can get some of these pictures up for.
Are you talking about Iman and Q42?
I am indeed.
Is that what you're talking about?
That's who.
Hey, that poor guy is still recovering from the weekend. I mean, he couldn't even write copy. I mean, this guy writes copy for a living.
Funny.
But because he couldn't get to it, because he's a busy man and he's a huge Bills fan, he's just telling you to head on over to Q42barbecue.com. That's QUE42BBQ.com. Get your all-natural, made-in Buffalo barbecue sauces and rubs. I use them. They're delicious. I'll be using them tonight. Roman's birthday is tomorrow, and I'm barbecuing right after this podcast.
Nice.
We're having lamb, Joe.
Yes. Beth makes lamb.
I'm going to have a lamb off with Beth. Punch in that coupon code, all caps, Fina Show, to save 15% on your order. Go to Q42barbecue.com, Q42bbq.com.
Awesome. While I'm doing this, you get to talk about your needs work while I'm working out on how to, before we get to
So, I mean, we talked about it last week. Everybody wants to diagnose what's wrong with the running game from the philosophy standpoint to, do we have the right guys on the offensive line? Do we have the right running backs, or because their skill sets are somewhat different, are we not running the right play with the right guy? What's happening?
Mm-hmm.
And, I had a conversation with Marino about this, and he disagreed with me, so I had to kill him.
He disagreed with you? Is that what you said?
He didn't disagree. He actually added a layer, which was nice. An incorrect layer. No, I'm just kidding.
Incorrect layer.
So, last week I told you I had that epiphany. I shared that we don't block well from a bunch set on the running game.
Right.
And I think because of where our guys came from, number 1 and 2, although Zach Moss was down this game, they do much better with a cleaner view in front of them.
Right.
And it was funny because during the game, I'm sitting next to Jerry-O. That's one word, by the way, Jerry-O.
Jerry-O.
And
is that British? Jerry-O.
Yeah. First play of the fourth quarter, they line up at the bunch set, and I literally tap him on the shoulder and I say, this better not be a GD run because we suck at the run out of bunch sets. Set hook, handoff, DED, dead.
DED, dead.
minus 2.25 yards. And he looked at me and he's like, "You're an asshole." And I was like, "What else is new? Like, who doesn't know that?"
All right, let me see if I can pull these up. Jay Spence is awesome at this. I am not so much awesome. So here we go. Bang. So this is what we're looking at right now. So this is the formation, right?
Yeah, I think I had one picture back, but basically this is 3rd and 1.
I've got all 4. I've got all picked.
All right. So if you're with us now, if you're looking, the right tackle's got the guy on his outside, the right guard is the guy on his outside. The center and the left guard are going to combination block to the linebacker on the right, who's like above Josh Allen. On the back side, the linebacker walks up. I didn't check and see who it was, but basically Dawson Knox has to work a combination block between the defensive end with his hand on his ground and the guy that's standing up.
Yeah, so there's the 3 guys right here on what would be the viewer's left, and then there's the dude behind him, and then the dude to the left.
And then I think that's Khalil Shakir.
It is Shakir,
in the slot.
Yep.
So he's going to block man on, and then Gabe Davis basically has a stalk. He decides who is the most dangerous between the two on the snap of the ball between the corner and the safety, who's at 10 yards, right?
Right.
So the way I coach this, Sal Capaccio, if you're listening, you ought to be, is for Knox, first of all, you got to know, you can't rely, especially in a hostile environment, that the tackle is going to make some sort of a call. All you need to know is what is Mitch Morse doing, right? So Mitch has got a point. He points at the linebacker in front of him, and even so, there's no way in hell that Knox thinks that he is going to the linebacker that's up on top of Morse and Bates. Mm-hmm. Not a chance in hell. So what Knox ought to be doing is take one step, read the hip of the defensive lineman. If the hip goes away, meaning toward the center,
right,
then he should spin and take the linebacker who's already in his face. Like I told my wife this, and she was so animated. Not really. If I could draw this up in any way, shape, or form and tell the defense to line up where I want them for this particular play, this is what I would have drawn. It would have gone for 8 to 12 yards if Dawson Knox just puts his right foot in the ground and turns. So go to the next frame.
So the next frame is this one?
Right. So look at Dawson. He's looking at the helmet of the defensive lineman, and the linebacker's running through. Shakir's on his guy. Gabe Davis is diagnosed that he's going to the safety. It's a bigger threat because the corner's playing outside leverage.
So you guys can't see it well, but I have boxed, if you will, the chief linebacker that Dawson Knox runs away from and double teams.
Don't say runs away, because it's an assignment error.
Oh, gotcha.
This is a mental error.
Gotcha.
I mean, Dawson is kicking himself today.
Right.
If the coach isn't screaming at him already.
Right.
So even at this point, even as far down the road as he is, if he can stop and put his right foot in the ground and just reach out with his left arm and just bump him, this thing goes forever. I mean, look at Saffold and Morse. They're in great position to take on that stack. Saffold's going to come off on the linebacker. Deion Dawkins is eating his guy up. You can't see his guy. He's got him covered up. This play should be an 8 to 10 yard gain.
Right, which a lot of Devin's runs were in this game.
Oh, you can't. Don't show my last slide. Oh, don't show that. Don't get rid of that. Drop that one.
Okay.
There. Thank you. Boy, I hope nobody screenshot that.
Well, stop talking and they won't.
Yeah, so it's like, that's a big question mark. Like, why are you not blocking this guy? So for everybody out there who, and I get it, I was there, you want to blame the offensive line, but the intricacies of offensive line play, look at Saffold coming off on the linebacker. If Dawson Knox just has a hand on the linebacker, look at the safety. I mean, he's flat-footed at the moment.
Yeah.
Singletary's going to meet him at 5 yards. The drive continues. I mean, look, I chose this play because the reason that running plays fail is not always obvious. And, looking at this, you're like, this was a great opportunity. And it's a loud environment, which means, you got all you need is one call. Everybody can do math, right? There's 2 guys on the front side, there's 2 guys in the middle, and there's 2 guys on the back side. You got 6 blockers, match up, let's go. And I get away from this when I'm coaching high school. They're like, well, I need a call. I'm like, you don't need a call. You need to do what Pat Hill taught me, was take the blinders off. The more you know about football, we always talk about football IQ. Right. That's not like a natural thing. That's like a study habit thing. Like, you have to know, if you're a tight end and you're going to block, you need to know the entire philosophy of the play. And gotcha. Dawson didn't do it here.
Yeah, and it was just like you said, an assignment error, a mental error, right? No big deal.
What? Whoa! What did you say?
It was an assignment error, a mental error.
No big deal.
Well, they won the game.
Are you? Oh! In the grand scheme.
Time out.
Because you and I are going to go at it right now. No big deal. But if an offensive lineman does it, you're going to be pulling your hair out looking for a trade.
This coming from the guy who says offensive linemen play 70 plays and they don't make a mistake, but they make one bad play and all of a sudden it's trade that guy. So, and I don't think
that's right. But my point is, nobody really diagnoses all the plays. It's like easy to say the running game fails. You always look at 5 guys. You never think, oh, well, and there's another one in this game that I didn't have a chance to look at because I don't have access to the NFL films right now, but we also ran another play out of a bunch set. And it wasn't Dawson's fault on this one. It might have been Quentin Morris. But when you bring guys in like that into the box, you give the defense an opportunity when their guys are bunched up too to send somebody early where I think it was Dawson, where he was totally outflanked. On the snap of the ball, the guy timed it up and he beat him inside. And it wasn't his fault on that play. But because you're cramping everything in there, the defense can be a little bit more creative with who they bring and then who covers the spot where they should be.
Right.
The gap control, so to speak.
So when you talk about the work, and I want to ask you a pointed question it's bothering me, and it's weird because I want the best of both worlds. So the Josh Allen and the Dable offense that we have seen since Josh Allen kind of got here is Josh Allen exceeding in that intermediate 12 to 22, 12 to 25 yard range, just throwing lasers to wide open guys, schemed that way. I mean, they're running routes to scheme and find soft spots in the zone. And then I want to ask you another question too. So remind me if I forget, what's the other question?
Okay.
And now they're running, and Josh Allen wouldn't take what the defense gave him. He wouldn't throw the underneath stuff. He wouldn't throw, there were no tunnel screens. Like right now, this is an amazing screen team. But all those intermediate throws are gone. Like they've just vanished. And all we do now is kind of throw that underneath sub 5. Like everything is like that for a guy to catch a ball and take off, which I want Yak, but I want both. Like, is there a world where you can live in both spaces? I mean, can we get dangerous Josh Allen on 3rd and 18 and have Josh Allen on 1st and 10 when everything's covered up? He's still going to hit the guy underneath.
All right, so you caught me off guard. I'd probably have to go look at a completion chart for the game, but what I hear you saying is we have a lot of completions at 7 yards and less.
It seems like.
And then more at 21 plus, and then there's that 20 to 8 yard.
Daniel says it best. Joe wants it all.
Joe does want it all. He's aggravating as hell.
I want it all.
So I'll say this. When we look back in time, who was the guy that was providing those 12 to 14 yard gains?
Well, it was varied, but you're leading into my next question. Is this offense missing Cole Beasley?
Well, I mean, we're 5-1, right?
That's the rub. It's like we're 5-1.
Right. You want everything. But so I'll also say this. I mean, if our old coordinator now is as good as I think he is, because by the way, I'd have to go back and really look. There wasn't a call at this point in the game that I disagreed with that didn't come from the head coach. I would have punted on 4th and 3. Okay, I would have kicked the field goal.
Jerry was blowing me up. Take the points. Take the points.
Yeah. I let him blow you up for a little while. I tried to give you a break. I was texting Beth.
That's not appropriate. Knock it off.
I actually don't have her number, but you laughed, which was great. So I think that Ken Dorsey is smart enough to look at the qualities of the defenses he's playing. And until people are, I don't know, until they're willing to give us a 6-man rush, we're not going to see some of those bends at 8 yards that turn into, 26-yard plays. And until we think that they don't have the linebackers who can drop into the intermediate zone, we might not see it either. And again, it's like you want it all, right? We're 5-1. I mean, okay, so the Miami game, kind of an outlier. I don't know what to tell you, Joe.
Well, so I guess I would ask the question this way. So a couple things. So
you were going to ask another question. I wanted to remind you, and that's my way of getting you off this topic.
It was Beasley. So and Pamela says Davis has stepped up. We don't need Beasley. That's not true. This offense looks wildly different. We're 5-1. Are we 5-1 because the offense is going crazy without Beasley, or are we 5-1 because the defense is way better? Because
it's a combination. I mean, we're definitely better defensively. I mean, we're providing some run stopping that puts our linebackers in a better position to play the air attack.
100%.
And Pamela did just say, did you bring it up? She we don't need Beasley because we're okay in the slot. But, have to...
Are we? McKenzie dropped a whole lot of passes.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it because I like him a lot.
So we don't...
Here's what I'll say to that. You have to... I mean, I focused on Beasley a lot because I loved him on Twitter. Mm-hmm. I loved his disruptive nature on Twitter. I loved his take on all of it. I loved his take on all of the COVID stuff, not because I agree with everything he said, but because I believe in inquiry. I believe in pressing, right? So anyway, what Cole did when he would find a spot to sit down and then move was unimaginably hard to defend. Mm-hmm. I mean, he and Josh really had some sort of unspoken communication. He'd sit down and you'd look like he's covered and he makes a quick move and Josh threads that ball right into the right spot, throwing to this side rather than this side when Cole is going over there. So I think there's a miss there, but I don't think that it can't be developed. You'll never make somebody Cole Beasley, but you can work, and I've witnessed this. Jim Kelly working with Andre Reed.
Right.
We'd run a play in practice, and then those two would have a little confab, while the rest of us were, doing our thing. And you notice they're like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And then that's what those meetings are about. So I think that will come.
Well, we've seen Allen and Diggs have those meetings. Like Allen and Diggs have, and now Allen is doing.
I know, but Diggs isn't your slot guy, right? So we're talking about that.
But he's been playing the slot a lot. So I love that. I love that about this offense. I love that Diggs is now moving around. I think Dable should have done that more.
Totally agree.
It's just it's weird because I don't want to sound like the guy that does quote unquote want it all. We are 5-1, but at some point in time, and I guess this would be the follow up. Former offensive Buffalo Bill or NFL player for 10 or 11 years. Is there a point where the screen game or the teams that play that short pass, Kurt Warner style, fast-paced offense are able to be shut down and you've got to be able to open it up? I mean, at some point in time, as much as the cover two shell stops that 14 to 22 yard intermediate game, we saw it shut down quarterbacks from the Bills, JP Lossman, couldn't play football because they were playing in Tampa 2. The Bills could beat that. Is there a defense that stops that underneath? I mean, at some point in time, somebody's going to roll out a defense meant to stop the short game, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I argue that, but as the running game evolves and the play action continues to evolve,
that's thinking, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it looked pretty good last game.
It looked pretty good last game because they were trying to keep the Bills from beating them over the top, right?
Man, you're just killing me here. But I'll challenge you on this. I mean, we had big plays against the Steelers. And I think that when your threat is good enough and you take those shots, look at Gabe's touchdown and look at Stefon Diggs' touchdown. They weren't They weren't 40-yarders. You know, they were, I think, 26 to 32 yards. I think that kind of falls into that category. Here's what I like. I think this year we're seeing more long balls. And I think as we threaten that a little bit more, it'll open up that 14-yard throw.
I don't disagree.
I think you're just jealous because you're looking at, like, Kelsey seems to find himself at 12 yards to 14 yards all the time. And we just want a guy who does that again repeatedly like Beasley did.
No, it wasn't Beasley. Beasley did it at times, and it has nothing to do with being jealous. I want to see for my offense.
Oh, you're jealous. It's oozing off of you.
I don't want to see year over year, hey, that stuff works. Let's not do that again. Because we saw that actually when you played. The Greg Williams era was all about that play really worked well. Let's never run that again. That play worked really well. Never run that again. Like, I don't want to live in that space.
I agree with you. I do, like, when I have this opinion where when a running play is working, you just milk the living hell out of it. Run it. So for me, it's just more about knowing that we have that capability. I don't know if Beasley's my question was more about, was it the Beasley effect? Was it him that was making those other plays more available, or is it Dorsey just being that much different of a play caller? And it's working. You're right. The over the top stuff is working. The underneath stuff is working. And I love seeing him take what the defense is giving him. But man, there is something about breaking the back of a defense. Okay. All right. So I'm going to tell you my assessment right now. Don't expect next week what you saw last week. What about Gilliam? Was it 3 or 4 catches? And we didn't even see him last game.
Yeah, we haven't seen him since.
All right, we had screen game against Pittsburgh. We didn't see any real screen game against Kansas City.
Yeah.
So there's, so Steve, as you have said in the past, an embarrassment of riches, right? What does Steve have to say?
He says Josh is number 1 in the NFL by a mile in yardage and passage over 20 yards. I'm not talking about.
No, you were talking about under 20 and above 8.
I'm talking about those intermediate throws. I'm not talking about rainbows. I'm not talking about rainbows. I'm talking about.
How dare you accuse Josh of throwing a rainbow? Those things are a frozen rope.
Oh, dude, the rainbow to Gabe Davis was amazing.
I'm calling Mr. Allen right now.
There's just something about when Josh Allen would drop back. If it was, and I'm not saying it's not there. We have yet to see it because they're doing a very good job of staying in front of the sticks, right? So they're not seeing a lot of 3rd and 18s. They're not seeing a lot of 3rd and 22s. But we watched an offense for the last 2 or 3 years where if it was 3rd and 19, we as Bills fans were like, oh, Josh has this. He's going to find that guy 19 yards down the field. Absolutely. Like, and it just feels like.
So do you think we don't have that anymore, or we're just not seeing 3rd and 19, which I don't see a lot of?
I don't know. I don't know what that answer is.
Joe, you have me completely vexed. I'm flummoxed. You know so much about football, and I give you a great deal of credit, and now I just feel like we're gonna break up after tonight, and then we're gonna get back together tomorrow.
I'm asking questions that fans
always something breaking us into.
I'm asking
Joe Jackson. You got to listen to it.
I'm asking,
you know that?
Yes, I'm very familiar with Joe Jackson. I'm asking
tune.
questions that fans ask, and
I know. Oh! So you're assuming the fan role?
Not assuming. That's what I am. I know nothing about football. Other than what
you know, surprisingly less than you think you do. I'm so sorry. I'm a horrible person.
I hope everybody enjoys.
Hey, can you delete the Tinder ads? We're getting Tinder coming in.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the John Fina show, hosted by Jay Spencer King, going forward.
And Tinder.
And Tinder.
Somebody delete the Tinder. Okay, so look, I love that you're thinking this way, but I have to say, and I can get called out on this at any time, and frankly, I don't care. I think Ken Dorsey is better than the other guy.
Oh, 100%. His feel.
100% or 80.
His
or 20.
Well, he's running the Dable offense, right? But he's added his nuances, but his feel for the game.
Yes, that's what it is. I like when I said earlier that there aren't many plays that I disagree with him calling situationally. That is like I had head scratchers when Dable would call plays.
100%. Second and 11, you're running the football with Zach Moss. What are you doing? You had him inactive.
Well, it's not that he's running it; it's the type of run.
But even still, and the player, and I don't mean this year. Last year, you've got him inactive the week before. This week, it's second and 11 or second and 9, and you're running Zach Moss. What are we doing right now? This is bad, and you're running him straight into the back of the offensive guard, off into the right guard. Yeah, it's just, that's a whole different conversation for another day. This was a great show, dude. So,
do you think so?
I think so.
I thought it was a great show. I mean, we talked about buying a house, we talked about getting a mortgage, and we talked about delicious barbecue sauces and rubs. Beyond that, I don't know what the hell we accomplished.
I don't know, but there's a whole bunch of people watching this show live right now, and people. How many people came up to you this weekend and said, "I love your show. I love your podcast"?
You know what they said? They said, "I love Joe. Who are you?" So I'll say this: I don't want to run from the bunch set. Okay, I don't want to see it anymore, unless it's 1st and 10. Okay, 3rd and 1. Keep that shit away from me. Okay, flat out. Number 2. If you're going to block on a running play, I don't care if you're – I'm not going to use the expression that I texted you. I don't care if you're a receiver or a tight end. Know the goddamn play.
Oh,
be able to
family show.
Sorry. Know the play. Be able – you're not that far away. You can see Mitch Morse. He's going to make a call. He's going to point. All you have to do is count. He points at him, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4. I have 4, block number 4. I have 3, block number 3. That's how this works.
Yeah.
Cut it out. We're at the point now where we can't have a play like that again. We don't have to have that play. I coach high school kids, and I say, look, you're not allowed to have a mental error. You can actually play a game without a mental error. That doesn't mean you won't get your ass whipped, but you don't have to have a mental error. Okay? All right. You good with that? So the other thing that I'll say is, and I just thought about it, I'm like, don't think you know what we're going to look like this week because of what we saw last week.
I agree.
Between the amount of Gilliam we saw in this game and none in the last game, between the amount of screen game, between the amount of sideline threat that we had in this game to the middle of the field threat this last game against the Steelers, I think really Ken Dorsey and his team are working with the players and trying to figure out exactly where to attack, and it's working. We're 5-1.
I
love it.
Can you read that comment from a listener?
I don't think he's a listener, and he doesn't use capitals like I use capitals. It should be capital F, capital U, capital
Joe
F.
Miller has a comment, and he says, #FiredUpFina.
I got to tell you, we're breaking up.
We're breaking it up.
Is there anybody in the comments section that can litigate for our divorce? Because it's a 24-hour breakup.
Half of nothing is nothing.
Touche. Touche, big sexy. Touche.
It was a lot of fun.
You know what? The problem is I double-fisted it on this one because I was so excited we won. We beat Kansas City, and I was there with Jerry-O and the Bills Mafia and the Bills Mafia babes and Arkansas and Kansas City and Joplin, Missouri, and all of the crew killing it. That was an awesome experience. I want to say that aside from the Bills, I am thoroughly overwhelmed with all the Bills Mafia. They're great people.
They are fantastic. It was
even though our tailgate food was a little substandard.
It was a little substandard, but it was still good.
We survived.
We survived. It was still good. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator team on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, presented by Picasso's Pizza. My name is Joe Miller. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That guy right there, John Fina, as always, at John Fina. John, final thoughts, final words for the people in the.
Yes, I'd like to make an announcement.
Joe
and I are already getting back together. The breakup lasted 30 seconds. But more important than that, I am this close to confirming a very, very exciting special guest next week for the bye week. Once it's confirmed, we'll let you know. Tell your friends. I think that you out there in the Bills Mafia, people in the chat, will definitely want to tune in because I am super excited. It'll either be next week or certainly a week thereafter.
This
but
is an exclusive that nobody else has got.
No one else has gotten.
Yeah, it's when you sent me
I got the chills, they're multiplying. Those are my last thoughts, Joe. What do you got?
Daniel Gowrie says that you can't quit me, so I can't.
Oh, Mimi Fina was like, bromance. Listen, Mimi Fina, you said you were going to listen tomorrow. How's Lewis?
That's funny.
Lewis is Mimi's boyfriend. He flies for Ryanair.
I'm going to go into, shut it down. Shut down the whole daughter and boyfriend conversation because I'm not about that. So I got 2 girls, and I know how you feel. So shut the boyfriend talk down. So I don't know.
Denial ain't just a river in Egypt.
That's right. It's the bye week. The Buffalo Bills are 5-1, the best team in the AFC, probably in football. They cannot lose that spot. They're flying high, living on top of the world. All signs point to, the road to the playoffs going through Buffalo, which I'll be at, you'll be at. Wildest dreams land, baby. Wildest dreams land. That's where
wildest dreams.
Let's
Holy
enjoy
smokes.
the bye week. Enjoy football next weekend. Taking a whole day of stress-free football on Sunday and Monday. Thursday, if you watch on Prime and watch horrible football games on Prime Network, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I love you, bro. I appreciate I love the opportunity to get to do this show with you. So yeah.
Likewise, love you too, brother. And how does this work? Do you say final word to me or do I say it to you?
You always say it. You always say it.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.